I'd like to call to order Schenectady City Council Committee meeting for Monday, October 21st, 2024. And our first committee is Public Safety.
I'd like to call the Public Safety Committee to order. We have two items on the agenda tonight. First of which is the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant, Formula Program, Local Solicitation, Fiscal Year 2024. Chief Clifford, or Lieutenant.
Whoever's coming.
Good afternoon, good evening. The City Police Department is requesting acceptance of this Justice Assistance Grant. Ultimately, we were awarded, the city and county was awarded $35,711. There's been an agreed amount that the city will accept $5,000, and the remaining balance of $30,711 will be used by the county. Ultimately, what this will allow us to do rather, is to use consumables for new evidence tech procedure equipment. Apparently, there's new technology out there, and the city possesses that we have use of like a fiber extractor. So anytime there's minute pieces of fiber in either carpet or clothing, they can extract that, but it uses consumables. So the $5,000 would be used to purchase consumables as they're used up. And there is no matching funds required by the city.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
So just for clarity, we use their equipment.
Yes.
The counties,
Yep.
that the counties purchasing, and so our costs for the consumables, but we always have access to the equipment itself.
That's correct.
Okay, that's all I have.
Any other questions or concerns, Mr. Mayor?
My understanding that equipment would not be solely used for the city. We've made available for other agencies within the county. So that's our portion would be 5,000 is going to go to support our component utilization of the broader than everyone bill, and someone else can also use the equipment.
Because it's the counties.
Right.
Got it.
Any other questions or concerns?
I'll move this.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
The next item on the agenda is a reminder of the public hearing regarding creating a new section 248-11 of the Schenectady City Code and amending section 228-19 of the Schenectady City Code, Vehicle and Traffic Matters and Street Sidewalks. Public hearing will be held on October 28th. Any other items to befall public safety? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.
I would like to call the Finance Committee to order, and the first item is the Fire Department contract acceptance, personal protective equipment, turnout gear. Chief Maria.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Oh, sorry.
No worries.
So a few weeks ago, we were here to standardize our personal protective equipment, PPE, that's the turnout gear, and the council moved that forward. I'm very appreciative of that. And now we have put out to bid our specs, and we received a bid from Garrison. They were the lowest bidder, and it is for $4,130 per set, and that would be good for 1 year. So I'm asking the council to consider that and pass that forward.
Questions? Seeing none, we have a motion to move this forward.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Next item is Restore New York grant application. Mayor McCarthy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a state program. It's an exciting project for the conversion and transition of the old the St. Clair's Hospital, which has been owned by Ellis Hospital. Ray Gillen is here. His role is chair of Metroplex and heading up the Unified Economic Development team in the county for looking for the city's support in terms of the application. Any specific questions, Mr. Gillen's available. General questions I can answer.
Any question for the mayor or Mr. Dillon? Other than what the mayor said just now, is there anything else you want to brief us?
We've been very successful in going after Restore New York grants. I think we've won 7. This is the 9th round. They look for big buildings that have a big impact on the community, either renovating or demolishing them. Everyone knows about the Central Warehouse project in Albany recently that's going to be demolished. And they're looking for, large structures that create either an opportunity or they're a drain on the community and they need to come down. In this case, we want to save the vacant St. Clair's Hospital. It's a 400,000 square foot building. That's a big building. We have a proven developer in place. They're applying for historic tax credits to help finance the project. This would be an application to the state for Restore New York money. We've laid out the calendar in the memo that was provided that shows that we can follow all the steps that you all would like to follow and the correct procedures and get an endorsement hopefully from the council by the end of November. We submit the application in December. We're going to work very closely with the city staff, Metroplex, and the developer to put together hopefully a winning application.
Any questions on this? Go ahead, please.
Thank you for the overview. Are these the type of projects that would seek consideration for like pilots?
Yeah, this is a great point. I'm glad you raised that, Councilman. St. Clair's, of course, since it was built in 1949, has been off the tax rolls. It's on an 18-acre site. This project would put it on the tax rolls through a pilot that would be still to be negotiated, and we'll consult with the city finance team and the mayor on that and all of you. But we are very excited about the opportunity to put the buildings and the main hospital building on the tax rolls. The other medical arts buildings at the campus, which are staying open, are already on the tax rolls.
Any other question? Seeing none, may I have a motion to move this item forward?
So
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
The next item is discussion, excessive waste fee schedule. Mr. LaFont, yeah, you can take this.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
I believe everybody has a copy of the proposed fees for bulk items and we'll call the limit on the number of bags or gallon cans per unit in front of you. It's been presented to you for discussion. I don't know if any of you had time to go through it, if you had any comments. But again, our waste fees are going up drastically every year. Tip fees, the cost of trucking garbage, and this is also to address what we call the excessive waste on a sleeper. And we know we go by these houses that have, it looks like they emptied 3 or 4 houses and put it on the curb line. And we take it right now, and there's no additional charges or cost for that. There is a cost for that, but the city is absorbing that. So this is to really look at if people are putting an excess amount of trash out for pickup, including bulk items which are taking up a lot of room in the trucks and adding weight to the collection.
Well, you just want to touch on the trash bag in excess of 7. Can you highlight that and how that was arrived at?
We discussed this in several meetings. 2 council members were present. We had a committee. It was discussed a number of times on, what would be the limit on the bags or the size bags. I believe we all came to a conclusion. At first it was 5, then it was 6, and then, I got a lot of garbage, that's 7. I don't know where you want to end. We can go to 9, but we've got to have a point where it's reasonable. And, there are some studies done by EPA on how much trash an average person puts, out in a day. And we came to 6, and then we grew it to 7, being a little bit generous, I think. Some of the meetings I went to on some of the neighborhoods, when I said 7 bags, some people said, that's an awful lot of garbage. It is. 7 bags of garbage. Or 1 45-gallon can. So that means if there's a 2-family unit, it's 14 bags or 2 45-gallon cans. And for a 3-unit, you got 21 bags or 3. Some people have asked, okay, well, what if I put 9 bags in my can? Well, if you don't fill the bag that hard, the can still holds 9 bags. It's 9 bags. But it's the can or 7 full bags. So it was discussed in several meetings, and this is what we came out with.
Can you talk a little bit, I see the handout that's in here, but have you thought at all about how you're going to promote this to residents, or what some of the methods might be?
Been discussed, just preliminary at some of the neighborhood meetings. We come out as a soft start, and we're just not going to start, writing violations immediately. We'd have to do a soft start. We'd have to do a lot of promotion. There's a lot of work to put this out. A couple of things that were discussed was it's almost like the permit fee. If you're going to build a deck, do some work in your house, you come to City Hall. The sheet that you have, it's sort of an simple Excel sheet. You got 6 items, you fill it in, it's going to calculate the cost. You come down to room 9, you'll do the sheet, just like you would do in codes. You go upstairs to receipts, you pay for it, you come downstairs, we give you the appropriate stickers, you put it on, we'll schedule it for the next pickup. The SBL is on there, so it would always go to the property owner. Unfortunately, tenants, we have no recourse to get that bill paid. So it would go to the homeowner, and if not paid, obviously, if we'd be an MDB, it would be levied.
Go ahead, please.
So in terms of, and I wasn't there for the final decision on 7, so in terms of who's going to keep track of the bags and how you're going to, how it gets reported, or let's say someone puts out 8 bags and 7 is the number. So how does that get counted, and then what happens with that excess bag and how does it get charged for?
I don't think we're going to step on everybody's toes for one bag once in a while. Okay?
All right, 5 extra bags.
We have 4 nuisance officers that are out on a daily basis, plus 3 supervisors for waste. They'll go to the property, they'll photo it in the house, if there's an address on the house, so it's documented, and that property owner will be issued an MVB for the additional waste. We're not going to leave it on the street. It's got to be picked up. We all know that's the one function and operation the city has to be complete every day. You can't go back tomorrow and re-pick it up and fall too far behind. So it will be picked up, so it's not left for neighbors to complain about, but it would be a violation. As any other day when people put their trash out before 2 o'clock. We wrote a number of them today because had the trash out. 9 o'clock this morning for tomorrow's pickup. So the way to do this is enforcement. If you don't enforce things, nobody's going to ever follow the rule.
So Paul, in terms of billing, you want to touch on that? Quarterly? The suggestion is to bill quarterly for this rather than billing every...
We wouldn't bill. It's really on demand. It's sort of like if you're in the suburbs, if you have bulk items, you call ahead to your private trash collector and say, I've got some material out there. They'll schedule a day when they may have 2 people on that truck or not. They'll, the property owner will come down here, whether he makes arrangements with his tenant, tell us they have X items to pick up, or this, we'll fill it out. On that sheet, you'll see that there's a pickup date. So normally it would be the next pickup. If they came in at 10:04, on a Thursday, it may not be Friday's pickup. It may be the following Friday, but we would tell them to have it out on this date. It'll all be picked up.
So for the ones who doesn't have that,
Doesn't have what?
online or come into City Hall and have those stickers and just put it out like that to the curb, would that be picked up and then billed?
Yep. We're not going to leave anything on the curb. As we do right now, we're going to pick it up, but the property owner will be billed.
Well, that's the proposal, that we would continue to do that. The final decision is still in what the city council adopts in the modified code.
Go ahead, please.
So the bill, if it's, say, a refrigerator, and if they didn't come down to get the sticker, so you bill them, is it the same amount, or is it increased because they did not come down and get the sticker?
Same amount.
Same amount?
We do have an administrative fee if we write a violation of $50. It's in the city code currently. But again, if it's up to city council, when I've gone to the neighborhood meetings, it's only been discussed. It's still a decision of the council. And if you leave it there, or you don't come down and you pick it up, and there is no bill for it, then I don't know why we're proposing this. We smell of anything. I mean, this is to sort of curtail the offenders that are just putting there all the time. People who are bringing trash in from outside the city because they have apartments here, they're leaving it in front of their apartment buildings because it's free pickup here.
And the reason for the question is, if if I don't come and get a sticker, you're gonna take it anyway and then bill me, so why am I gonna come down here and spend the
Well,
time to get a
because
sticker?
based on that, you're still going to get an administrative fee, so it's going to be more money.
All right.
There's still administrative fees attached to violations within the city code. So if you choose to, there would be a violation plus the pickup.
Go ahead, please.
You brought up a good point about people bringing garbage from outside the city. So if someone from outside the city just brings trash in front of my house? And we have no way of knowing unless you go through the garbage that it wasn't my trash. And so how do we, and then it becomes between the homeowner or the renter and either the garbage, the nuisance inspector or the city, like to determine who really put that trash there.
Well, we do go through the trash and we look for mail, okay? But yes, that does happen. In fact, people come in and drop it on the city property. Normal places are on Watt Street, Cheltenham Avenue, the alleyways. It happens on our own property. And it may happen. And I believe law can answer that because the one time I was informed that it's presumed if it's in front of your house, it is yours. And that was the last advice I got from Corporation Council prior to new Corporation Council. I don't think it's going to happen every day on a daily basis, but there's a possibility it's going to happen. We pick up trash all over the city that's just left in random places, and it happens. It's not a perfect system.
Go ahead, please.
Mr. LaFawn, what was sort of the general reaction from the neighborhood associations? And thank you for going to all the neighborhood associations to talk about this.
It was taken well. A lot of the neighborhood associations realize that there are a lot of properties that are just excessive. And to go back to your questions, we might get a bag or two of an odd item that someone dumps, but it's really going after the violators who put just excessive amounts of waste out. And I don't think they're going to bring trailer loads or truckloads into somebody's house and start just unloading it. They'll probably get noticed. You're going to have them once in a while. Someone dump a TV or a single item in somebody's houses. But to get back to you, they did take it good. One of the things was a better way of maybe addressing how to get the stickers. And it's something that was discussed. Maybe it can be done online. There's things we can look at. Some say it may be an inconvenience to actually come here and purchase stickers. But again, if you think about it, and you say, okay, hey, I got a slow day today. I'm gonna run over to the city hall. I'm gonna just grab a dozen stickers. It just happened for the year. They're there. You could call in. There's things we can do, but we have to start somewhere. Or we're just going to continue to pick up excessive amounts of waste and never get to an end.
Go ahead.
Did we try something this similar to this? Was there ever anything similar to this tried back a few years ago?
Not since I've been here. I mean, I know we did the big push on recycling years ago, and we all know what recycling is now. You could add about $500,000 to our waste expenses because of recycling, because 4 years ago it was absolutely free. It is not free no more. You've heard me say before, we pay more to get rid of and dispose of our recyclables than we do our MSW. So there's almost $500,000 in additional costs just on recycling.
And so could you tell us which neighborhood associations that you've been to? And also for those, because neighborhood associations, some of them don't have a large turnout. So what is the plan to reach people who don't ever go to neighborhood associations or don't engage in that way in the community?
Obviously, if you make a decision on what we do and how we finalize it, it's going to be media. It'll be on our website. I imagine we'll put it in the newsletter. The paper, maybe on the news. It has to be, there's going to be a program to reach out to everybody. I'll continue to go to neighborhood meetings. They have their websites. They can share it through theirs. Some of them have newsletters. But I've been to the Stockade, I've been to Banna, I've been to the GE plot and the North End.
Union, Upper Union, Chris was there.
Yeah, and
Yes, he
the
did.
one night I had a special meeting for the GE Bellevue meetings at the same time and a budget meeting, so I couldn't get to all the places.
So Upper Union, so it's 5?
Chris, yes. Chris did a presentation here on that.
And at the one meeting, the representative from Sun was there, and she was going to spread the word a little bit too.
Go ahead.
So I was thinking like, this is probably going to be something that people will, with our best efforts of kind of educating people and trying to get the word out, that we'll see the real, once we start to implement it, then people will start saying, oh, I didn't, I was unaware, whatever. But I think that's kind of just what the natural progression of this is going to be until it becomes kind of a norm. So I was thinking, I don't know if this was discussed, but, something like, so as we begin to implement it, we see that person has 8 bags. So it's, a couple more bags than what they should have, or, 8 or 9 bags. And it's like, instead of maybe the violation at that point, then maybe something goes on the door to say, hey, this is almost like a warning.
Well, let's discuss to do a soft start, which we know implementing something that today we start and running a bunch of violations isn't going to help. It'll be a soft start, and there will probably be some just reminders, okay? And they don't like the word warnings, but a reminder that, the city implemented a new garbage structure, and, and it may take, maybe 60 days or 90 days, I don't know, for people to get acclimated, but we're not looking to just say, starting today, we're going to start writing all these violations and fines. There's going to be a soft start to bring this program on board.
Mr. Mansard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, my thoughts on this are the council can move in a timely manner. We normally do the distribution of the garbage schedules on a voluntary or handout basis. This year, we would look to do more of a direct mail, or making sure not only the garbage schedule, but the new criteria is delivered to each and every pickup point. And then, as Paul's outlined, Mr. Farley's talked about, is doing almost a no penalty enforcement period, so that people might get some type of citation saying that you're doing this wrong, but there's no penalty. You've got to be in compliance, and as he's saying, 60 days, 90 days, as we educate people and fine tune the system.
Thank you. So I appreciate all the time that a lot of people have put into this, and I will say that we're one of the only large municipalities in the area that hasn't implemented some type of structure for putting bulk items out at the curb. When we were in these talks, I always asked about the, as I call them, the Schenectady two-family that are cut into 2, 3, 4 apartments, maybe only on the books as a two-family. I would really like to see some housing sales pulled, and code just checking into the amount of apartments that are in some of these buildings that are putting out a lot of excessive trash. Another thing is, we just had a holiday last week, so you got maybe an extra day of trash, which flows into your 7 bags now being 10 bags or whatever. So I had originally asked the committee for 10 bags, and we kind of cut back on that. And as far as trash bags, I mean, we only use 13-gallon trash cans in our bags in our kitchen. But then you can put out 7 35-gallon bags.
But these are 13-gallon. Yeah,
Oh, so they're only the 7?
Yeah, it's listed on here, 7
Okay.
13-gallon bags.
I thought it said 35, okay. So, and again, as I say, I mean, there's just 2 of us that live in my house, and a lot of times I put out, I have 6 just for 2 of us, being that we cook all the time, and we do create a lot of trash. But I would like to see, I don't want to see, and I'm not calling this people being penalized by any means, but, and repeated at our meetings, my mother-in-law put out a can of trash this big as a single senior woman. And then if she wants to throw out a lamp, she has to, they have to add to this. I mean, and I understand it needs to be done. I understand if we addressed this last year, we wouldn't even be having this discussion, because for $30-some-odd per unit, everything would still be being picked up. But I do realize the importance of these bulk items being put out and a lot of individuals abusing the system.
And, you know, we would be cognizant of certain holidays. And we know the month of November coming up, people get confused. There's 4 holidays.
Right.
And you know Thanksgiving is going to generate a lot of trash. So there's some common sense that we have to use too. You know, that, you know, on a Monday after the long Thanksgiving weekend, if there's 2 extra bags, I think, you know, we have to work things in a little differently. But
I mean, I understand that all this, we worked it out over and over and over again in our meetings, and we really tried. I also thought of scales on trash trucks. So when you're picking up a bulk curbside, you know, it gets weighed and billed out. So I still think, and I know that, you know, we need to increase our revenue, but I also think that there's still more that can be done on how we can put this out. And again, it's not going to be fair for everyone. I realize that. But try to make it.
if I can add, there's 2 things. The scales would never work.
No.
To outfit the trucks, our debt service would increase so much we'd have to raise all our rates to begin with.
Okay.
And then trying to weigh everything that's on a curb, we better double our overtime across the board and hope that they want to stay and work. It just, you know, logistically would not work. On the side where the people who put out maybe 1 or 2 bags, again, if you're in the suburbs, you're going to buy 1 can. That's what they're going to charge you for. Whether you put 1 bag in it or you put all 7 bags in it, you're going to pay. There's got to be a baseline for everything. And you know,
I appreciate the time you put in, and Mr. Masajic, who worked in trash, who was very knowledgeable. We reached out to anyone who has commercial suburbs who have it. And you're right, it's 1 can, top closed. Same with recycling. So I know that something needs to be implemented. I do. And I'm done.
Go ahead, please.
So I'm glad you brought that up, Mr. Toro, because I was going to ask, 'cause I imagine you were one of the key people who were part of this committee from start to finish, is that correct?
I started it, yes.
And then with this proposal, like, you take credit in the
I
way that
do
was
not
done?
take credit for this
I mean,
proposal.
partial
No,
credit, like your
well,
feedback and comments are
we-
reflected in this document, is that not correct?
Yes, some of them are, yes.
So I would say, in some of your reservations, are you not confident in what you presented? Because I think that would be cause for pause, at least for myself. So do you feel good with this current?
I wasn't part of the final presentation that Mr. LaFawn's been going to neighborhoods and presenting. So there are maybe some of my ideas in there, but no, I am not presenting this to you, Mr. Williams.
So does this document not reflect the conversations that you initiated, or?
I had part in some of these initiations. I again, put 10 bags on the table versus 7. Ms. Porterfield sat there for most of the meetings as well, so, yeah.
So of your discussions, what percentage would you say this reflects those discussions?
We talked about pricing for units on, you know, for whatever bulk we might put out. And again, I brought forward constantly, what I just brought forward again was the amount of apartments in the city that aren't regulated, that need to be looked into. So they're putting out, you know, 3 times the amount of trash. I always brought up my mother-in-law's little tiny can, and now all of a sudden, you know, she might have a mattress that goes out and a couple of other things, and she's at $50, or she forgets to get her stickers. Now it's $100, when, had we addressed this properly, I don't think we'd really be going through any of this.
And I appreciate you raising this, getting into my 2 questions. That was a good point. So your comment was, if we raised fees to the $35 that was proposed last year, this would be a new point. We wouldn't have to address this issue now. I would say at this present time, with the proposed fee increases, there's been no pushback, at least from myself. So would that not address this issue, at least this year? So wouldn't this not be a topic of concern based on your comment?
I'm sorry, I don't understand your question.
If we raise fees, is this an issue?
How much are you proposing we raise the fees this year?
I would say the mayor proposed $52 for the year, which exceeds the $35 from last year. So if we're trying to just repeat the cost of increasing municipal waste, My concern is if you change too much, we can't evaluate the efficacy of any one change. So that's one of my cautions. But then also to your other issue, which I drew an issue to the rental certificates with families being miscategorized. Isn't there a concerted effort from like code enforcement to make sure properties are what they say they are? So if that's a concern, I think that is also an area we need to make sure we address. Because to your point, if buildings are misidentifying themselves, we have to make sure we right-side that issue.
Well, the buildings are not misidentified. It's when people do the weekend warrior thing and readjust their buildings to something we're not aware of, and they don't come in and get their proper permits, so we don't know inspect them. So when they convert a 2-unit to a 3-unit or a 4-unit, we're not always made aware of it. Not everybody comes to the city hall and gets the building permit and follows the procedure. And a couple of things is, yes, if you raise the fee just across the board, that's going to address everybody pays the same, you get what you get. It's not going to address the people who are still taking advantage of it and putting out the big bulk loads of trash. The whole point of this is to address the people who are putting the excessive amount of trash out in the bulk items. And to answer the question about a mattress, I think for I think the mattress on a queen size is $10. So you can put out a whole bedroom array for about $45. And I don't know, I don't buy a new mattress every month. I don't buy a sofa every couple of weeks. So it's very, most people keep these for 20 years. But again, you have a straight base fee adjustment. And as I spoke earlier, we've seen an increase of $500,000 because just recycle. We never paid for recycle. We're paying $500,000 now for just recycle. So that might address some of our costs that are going up just naturally. But we still have to address the cost of the people who are just putting out, boatloads of material along their property and just paying a modest fee for it.
And so I think just closing comment, I think that's why it's important to be intentional with our words. So the $35 increase proposed last year, just raising that would not have addressed this issue.
The mayor's got his hand up.
But I mean, you were...
Yeah, until we get some data on what we're picking up. We've never gathered data we pick up. We do know that, we call them, the jackpots. And the truck pulls up and it takes, another truck to come over and so, the whole point is addressing, the people who are putting, 15, 20 bags and cans and emptying their rental units because somebody moved out, but they don't want to pay for a dumpster. They just put it outside because the city takes it for free.
Well, let's just be clear, my proposal last year's budget was a $52 increase. It was $1 a week last year. Again, we had to get people to continue to work here. Judging with the council, we gave the drivers pay raises to just stay competitive, not only with other localities, but with private industry. And so there's an expense here. And right now, it's all random. There is no way that I can manage this and build in operational efficiencies with the structure that's in place today. And what is on the code, what I've told you before, it's in the code. Nobody in the city is compliant. It's much easier to do the enforcement. It's just $50 a day will be the fine, basically, for everybody. My garbage is not compliant. The code says clear bags. I'm using white garbage bags. I can't find clear bags.
And just to address it, when this was brought to us last year into the budget, it was discussed as excessive garbage, jackpot. So it wasn't, I don't think we discussed all these, what we call it, these bulk items here was discussed last year. It's more of addressing excessive garbage last year.
And you're correct, Mr. Woodbury. The jackpots, as the staff coins the term, is a clear situation that has universal acceptance. Those are wrong and incorrect. But where do you draw the line? It is a far more complex analysis from people who may only be putting out 1 or 2 bags There are people who do very good, we don't do source separation anymore, but the single stream versus MSW, and how do you put in place something that is fair, equitable, and manageable?
So there's 13 gallons trash bag for one container. So if I were to have two cans out there with 7 bags, is that a violation? Would that be a violation?
Well, it's a single unit, yeah. You're either given, 7 bags tied, sitting at the curb, or one 45-gallon can. Now, you could take your 7 bags and put it in the can if you want to keep a nice, neat, backyard, and it's your choice. I mean, some people could fit maybe 9 or 10 bags in a can if they don't fill them all the way, but it's either or. It's one 45-gallon can or 7 bags. A lot of people don't have cans. They just bring their bags out. They sit them at the curb, and if there's 7 bags, they're going to take them.
It's still the discretion of the council. There would be 2 cans. One would be for MSW, one would be for recyclables.
Now, what I was trying to get at, I'm going to use myself as an example. If I were to have 2 garbage cans with 7 bags, one has 4, one has 3 in, would that be compliance?
No.
In compliance?
If what you are looking at right now, it's either or. You get one 45-gallon can or 7 bags.
Okay.
Or you double it or triple it per the units. But after 3 units, then it's a commercial from the city code.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I was thinking that maybe we need to make, I think we're saying there's an important distinction that's not being made here. So I think last year, if I remember the conversation correctly, it was primarily around these jackpots, and it was the view. Oh,
Sorry.
Oh, sure. No. Just saying what I remember. So and it was primarily around the jackpots, but my recollection is it wasn't just me and other members of the council were saying, well, when you have people, such as your mother-in-law was putting out, 1 bag of garbage, pretty consistently, maybe a lamp or something like that, we don't want, because the neighbor down the street is putting out a couch and 25 bags of garbage, that shouldn't increase her because she's, making reasonable choices, and, we don't want to negatively impact her as far as the jackpot. So that's one issue. Then the other issue is just the increase of cost and the increase of labor, and that is something that will be addressed via, increasing the fees all across the board. But I think that a lot of times in that conversation, those issues were getting conflated, and even maybe so now, the point being that the fee structure is to try to manage some of the jackpots that's happening, and then proposed increases is for the general. Am I correct about that? Right. Okay. Yeah, thank you.
The cost of the operations, pick up garbage, the tip fees, fuel oil, maintenance on the vehicles, cost of new vehicles, that all goes up. Our benefits go up. The union, as the mayor spoke, there were some increases to keep it competitive working in the trash. It's a hard job. They're out there, no matter how cold it is, how wet it is, how much snow's on the ground, to get their pay up in regards to where it was in other communities. That covers that base fee. But now you got to look at the people who are increasing it even more because they're just taking advantage of what they're putting out there, because right now there's no extra cost.
So to your point, so that wouldn't have addressed what we were talking about. And I think so. And the other thing is, Mr. Turo, I think your concern around like the apartments and to your kind of weekend warriors, I think one of the positive byproducts of this will be those places might be more easy to identify for code, because now we'll pull up and say, listen, this is a 2-family house and you're giving me 6 units worth of trash. That might be some indicators where we can start communicating. Maybe that makes us more effective, work more efficiently within our code department.
The nuisance officers will generate a notice, and we can give it to codes to do an inspection to see did they put an extra 2 apartments that we weren't aware of.
There we go. Thank you.
And Mayor, whenever this is rolled out, we intend to have online service so people can purchase stickers online.
We're looking at all those scenarios. Would you maybe be able to purchase in local stores so that there would be a neighborhood convenience? One scenario is that we might mail out a couple of stickers to everybody at the beginning of the year, so you get some. There's an assumption you're going to have something that's going to exceed the limit. That's still the prerogative of the city council to actually implement that, put it in code, and then we'll manage it going forward.
Go ahead. please.
So Mayor, you brought this up about the clear and translucent bags, and I see that there's no change within the code, but as you stated, they're difficult to find. So if we're going to do this, I think that we need to also address the part of the code that people can't comply with because they don't have the ability to comply with, as opposed to changing all this and then somebody puts it out in a black bag and you're like, well, it's not clear. Not only do you have ink, they're black. So we would need to address that part of the code too. Section 161-4H, number 1. There's that. And then, Mr. LaFawn, you said that we never collected data on this. So how is it that we're coming to this without ever having collected data? And similar to what Mr. Mancini said the other day, did we do a cost-benefit analysis? Because now we're talking about putting the stickers in stores. We're talking about increasing staff time to do some things. One of them is counting bags. I know it's nuisance officers, but still, that's an added responsibility that they don't currently have. So are we getting it more than we're putting out in terms of
No,
this?
I think no matter what we do, we're going to benefit going forward, because right now we're not doing anything. We're just taking it. So when you look at, data, we'll start looking at data, because now we know that when we're out, we have everybody's seeing, the excessive waste at certain, properties here and there, all throughout the city, every neighborhood. We don't record it. But as we start doing this, there will be data. These people will be coming into line. We'll know now if somebody is, in violation or needs to get a warning notice. We can start keeping track of it. But again, it's just been, a rule of the city that if it's on the curb, we take it. It's, now we know what we're taking is 6 bags, a 145-gallon can. And, since this stuff will be paid through, Munis or Municity, it'll be tracked. So when people come in for tickets, we'll know, hey, we sold X number of tickets, and the revenue was this. But we don't know now when we pull up. The guys go out, they want to get the job done, they're putting the bags in, they're putting bulk items in, they're putting, you'd be amazed at how much little child furniture we get. Once children outgrow the little tiny tot stuff, the plastic stuff just goes out on the curb, and it's just going in the trash. It just goes as normal day trash. We don't tally every item we're picking up.
And to address your point, if you turn to the next page, the draft legislation, and right almost in the middle of the first page, your point is addressed there in terms of the plastic bags. It's being renamed.
It's still in there. There was no suggestion for changing that.
There is a suggestion here on the line. Place in plastic refuse bags.
Section 2.
Yes.
Clear or translucent refuse
If
bags.
you go down to the underlying section, 1, all residential solid waste. It's in that section there.
So it doesn't have to be clear any longer.
That is correct. That's for this draft.
So
There was I thought I heard somebody say something. Well, so now we are going to a public hearing with this?
Yeah, I will just ask Ms. O'Brien just brief us on the draft here, so that we can, if we have questions, we'll ask.
I do have one other question. And obviously I'm not remembering correctly. I thought that we settled on 32 gallon, but it's 45. And is there, in terms of the staff, and you talked to before about these, how heavy it can be, and if it rains and stuff gets inside. So people have cans that have tops, right? So
We prefer cans that have tops, but we all know that lids disappear. Windy days, we know, and the one thing with the trash bags, when they're tied and the trash is in them, they stay in the bag. The problem is we have a lot of properties that put their trash out, then they carry the loose trash, they set it on top of the bag, they're going in a hurry, it's just blowing down, it's just, we've talked about it in our meetings, it's the same cardboard. Our code says cardboard is supposed to be broken down and tied. I probably got just as many violations as we did with no clear bags. With the amount of boxes people receive now through Amazon and everything else, they're just putting, boxes on the curb, and they're all over the place. I mean, we want to pride ourselves on the city. We want to be, as clean as we can be, and we've got to start somewhere. And one of it is when we put out the trash, should be tied, enforce the code, it should be in bags. If you're going to use a can, the top should be on it. But we got to prevent the litter from just rolling along the neighborhoods.
And cardboard is not part of this new fee structure.
Well, cardboard is not. Cardboard is considered recyclable, but in the city code, it's supposed to be broken down, laid flat, and tied. And we all know going down the streets.
And yard waste is not part of this also.
Yard waste is just strictly yard waste. We'll just continue to pick up yard waste and biodegradable bags, as the city code says, to the ones that's listed in the city code, and that goes to the county yard waste facility. You know, and there are tip fees involved with that. We don't dispose of our stuff there for free.
Just one of my final comments. I appreciate the presentation and the dialogue around the table, sincerely. I think my biggest concern is just having adverse impacts on disadvantaged households or frequently disenfranchised. I think my worry is, again, to Mr. Toro's point, like I can actually speak for myself. There are some weeks where you have a lot of bags and other weeks where you don't. And my fear is, who was that discretion up to if the focus is on jackpots? So I don't know if there's a way to write into legislation. Our focus area is on the excessive 12 to 15 range. However, to the mayor's point, we need to actually define what is appropriate. But I'm in agreement with having a no penalty enforcement. I think there also needs to be a concerted effort with how do we get feedback from the community. So I think we need to focus on that as well.
I can give you an example. My sons live outside the city, and they have, one can for recycle, one can for private pickup. If he's got too much garbage, he stays in the garage because next week he hopefully doesn't have as much and it goes in the can. That's how it's done outside. It's the private sector, the private world. I got 4 extra bags. Well, I know he's not going to take it because if I leave it next to the can, they don't get out because they have the warrant on the truck. So it stays an extra week and he gets it in. We have a rule. If it's decided on and we sort of stick by it the best we can, there is a soft start. But if you start letting everybody go, it's 2 bags this week, well, it's 3 next week, then I don't know.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'll shut up after this, I promise.
You don't have to.
But I would push back on that and say it's a privilege to have a garage. And then also, just my comment for the record would be, I'm strongly opposed to, based on my one, I will accurately define my comment, my one ride-along with the municipal solid waste crew. I will never do another one again. I was sore for weeks. What they do is impactful and it is not easy. I am opposed to any additional work being attributed to them. What our loaders and drivers do already, please correct me if I'm wrong, it is laborious for a reason, and I would want their focus to be on loading the trash and driving those vehicles safely and soundly. And I think if we identify any other administrative work to go to that could alter that.
Well, the administrative work, they're picking it up now. So whether they pick up 7 bags, and if that's what is decided with the council, pick up the 7 bags or 1. If nothing's done, then they go to the house, and there's 47 bags and 3 couches. They're going to pick it up anyway because that's what we do. The administrative work, the guys picking up that work aren't doing administrative work. I have 4 supervisors, and I have 4 nuisance officers. And if we're running short, I'm out there, Mr. One is out there, but we have management staff that's out there to assist with these issues, document things. The burden wouldn't be on the drivers or the labor loaders that are actually loading garbage, start taking pictures, and adding another, they've got enough, like you said, and they work very hard to do what they do.
Thank you. And I'll be quiet.
I just want to be clear that I know this is necessary. And to make a point of commercial trash pickup, my daughter's friend, it took her almost a month to get rid of her children's boxes from Christmas last year because she had to, break everything down, put it in the garage, fill the can, the next week, whatever. So we've been very fortunate up to this point of being able to get rid of all of our trash in the way that we have. But again, we need to start being a little bit more conservative and maybe even little piles in our yard, compost piles of food scraps, things like that. So again, it's a
Now, I'll add one thing. So I think somebody would come back to me and said that they've seen an improvement based on our nuisance officers going out and addressing the early outs.
absolutely.
And the reason we saw that improvement is we've been writing violations because we write them and people are being educated that it's got to be 2 o'clock or later.
Just follow up to Mr. Williams' points, which are correct, but I believe that as we go through this, it's actually going to reduce our waste stream, because today we have so many people that are taking advantage of it because there are no rules in place. And again, I'm trying to not do too much at once, even though we had a robust discussion a year ago about this. If you go back the prior year, in my budget message, I again referenced jackpots in that. So it's been 2 years to get us to this point. If we go to, and I'm not suggesting this, it's just hypothetically that some community might want to go to standardized sizes for cans, and then we can automate the arms on the garbage trucks, which other municipalities where they've done that reduces their workman's comp cases. And so it's how do you, again, build that efficiency and have rules in place that make sense to people. And we really still have a great system here. The transfer station the city owns and we have it managed by an outside contractor is available for people not only within the city but in the region who can go and dump there. So if you have MSW, you can go in. If you have C&D material, you can go in. And then there are also private companies immediately adjacent to that site who do a lot of recycling. So if somebody has paper, if they have metal goods, they can go down there and actually get a little bit of money for the material that otherwise might just be treated solely as garbage.
I just asked Mr. Bryan just to brief us on the draft list.
Can I add
Go
one more
ahead.
thing? I know there's been a lot of comparison to the suburbs versus the city, but an urban area versus suburbs, most of the people out there are homeowners. We're dealing with a lot of renters in the city, so I don't know that we can necessarily kind of try to apply the same thing. But I mean, I don't have a garage. People in the city do, and maybe many people that are homeowners in suburbs and surrounding areas have garages. That doesn't apply, so I want to be careful that we're not trying to compare ourselves to a municipality or a surrounding area, even within Schenectady County, that it's not going to be the same kind of thing.
While I was sitting here, I had the inspection report, since the mayor mentioned the transfer station. So the state inspected our transfer station today, and it was all satisfactory. There were no violations and nothing there. So our contract operator is doing a great job at the transfer station.
That's right.
I do want to say that the city of Troy did buy cans for every resident, Oh, yeah. So
Don't be suggesting
the
that.
city, no. I know we're not suggesting that, but we did have ARPA funds. But
Yeah.
again, their trucks now can use the one arm to empty things. And I know Mr. LaFawn reached out to Troy. Again, on the committee, we did reach out to every municipality that was Amsterdam, Troy, Utica, Cohoes just recently. So again, we're moving in a direction where, we need to go. But I think there's a little bit of work that the council can still do. So.
And that's why we're here. We're here discussing it to move forward because it's added in the 2025 budget, the
Right.
revenue associated with this increase. Mr. O'Brien, can you just brief us on the changes of draft legislation?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In your packets this week, you've gotten a rough outline, a working draft of the sections of the code. There's going to be various sections of the code that are going to have to be amended. The new materials underlined at the bracket materials taken out. We've already talked about the size of it, the garbage cans and the plastic bags. Based on follow-up Mr. LaFond mentioned earlier and the concerns of the council members, There's a 164-4N, it's not all the way in there, but it's penalties for offenses. Subdivision 1, there'll be a grace period following the effective date of the amendments to this chapter. This is language that was in the original chapter 161 when they enacted it. There was a vision of a grace period put in the original chapter 161. This is going along with that, the original 161 grace period, but updating it. When there shall be only a verbal and written warnings issued to violators of this chapter during this time period from the effective date of the amendments, which would be January 1, to the enforcement date of April 1st, there shall be an intensive program of notification, education on the amended procedures and associated fees. So it's mandating the city to go through a procedure for the first 3 months before any sort of enforcement's going in. And that's really language that was from the original chapter 161 when it was enacted. So just updating that and applying it to this particular case. It was envisioned when this chapter was put in that there would have to be an education period, and that's just updating it for these amendments. Also, we're looking at various sections of 161-Article 5 is really the fee-based system of collection of solid waste and recyclables. Article 5 of Chapter 161 is the fee schedule that we've been discussing as far as the fees to all residences. This is going into greater detail than is in there right now, besides going once again to the size of the cans and the plastic bags. It is trying to wrap its mind, it is dealing with that issue of excess residential solid waste or bulky items. It's dealing with if it's more than what it is said here, then those fees will be in place. Those stickers will be required. So that is setting forth the schedule, dealing with the schedules that you saw separately that are also part of this, furniture, couches, etc. And then property owners may purchase excess residential solid waste stickers to be affixed to their items. There was a discussion of $5 per sticker. That's in there if the council wants to change it. That's up to them. Stickers will be available at the city clerk's office and the Department of General Services office. Right now, that's just for discussion purposes. If everybody's okay with that as we go forward, that can stay in there. And then each property owner will be issued 3 excess residential solid waste stickers each calendar year. Once again, that can be adjusted. That's just for discussion purposes if you want to come back and amend it. And then it goes through other sections that are not being amended, and then dealing with the issue of depositing a public collection of solid waste not originating in the city shall be considered an unclassified misdemeanor. That's under 161-26, penalties for offenses, creating a new paragraph D, indicating that if that is done, then there'll be a fine up to $1,000 or up to 180 days per occurrence. So that's upping the people who may be bringing trash, putting the penalty to that particular violation. So the way ahead is you've got a working draft in front of you. You've got the permits, the schedule of fees that Mr. LaFont gave you last week as well. You can call for a public hearing, which would be on November 12th, Tuesday, November 12th. If you put it on for this working draft plus the schedule of fees that Mr. LaFont put together can be posted on the city's website for comment. So at that public hearing on the 12th, that would be the time period for public comments on this at citywide. And then this would come back to the committee for final action. So that's the way ahead. This is just a working draft. It's indicating those areas of the code that need to be changed and dealing with the plastic bags and the excess solid waste and the fee schedule. And So really, based on that, it's a public hearing on this, on the fees, and then any sort of amendments, changes, whatever, after the public hearing, you can adjust accordingly.
Mr. Bryan, I just want to touch on 161-24, the exemption, 25 exemptions. Just for the sake of highlighting it, so.
Yeah, those exemptions are not being changed.
Yeah.
The exemptions that are in the current ordinance are not being changed. So any person because of age or disability, etc., the exemptions that are in the current code are not being changed. That was the original section that was put into place when the garbage fees as a separate item in the city budget was created back some years ago. So that was the original language. So.
Any question? Go ahead,
Yeah,
please.
so in the changes that you've highlighted, that are highlighted in yellow,
Right.
so we're talking about 7 bags, right? Seven is the number now?
That was the consensus. Once again, that you can have, that's just.
That is a proposal.
That's a
Okay.
proposal, and that can be adjusted.
It says 6 in here, that's my point.
Okay. And that's it.
And in the places where it talks about it, it says that, first of all, that there can be 2 containers, and my understanding is can only be 1. And then it says that no more than 6 plastic bags. So I just want to make sure if we're putting this out for public hearing that it's consistent to what we're discussing.
Residential solid waste shall be placed in no more than 2 containers and no more than 7 13-gallon bags. With
And then go
total
further
weight.
down, it says 6.
Which one?
On page 74, it says residential solid waste not fitting within the containers or 6 plastic bags.
What is that? No more than 7. No more than 7. It's not on there. Oh, okay, the typo. Got it.
And when it appears again on page 75, it's the same.
It's the same paragraph. Okay, got it. Thank you.
So just going back, Mr. LaFont, to the question I asked you, where we said 1 45-gallon, 7 13 gallons of trash. But if you go to the underlying section here, section 2, it says 2 containers. And there was a reason why I asked that question.
It's still, it's 1 45-gallon
145,
container.
so we'll need to,
Or we may
change
want
that.
to define it as a separate container for your recyclables.
yeah.
So you just want to have 1 container. That's how come
Yeah,
we're
the
having
residential solid
That's
waste
how come we're having this discussion.
shall be placed with no more than 2 containers. So we need to change that to 1 container.
Which number are you
Well,
on?
it's one is for MSW and one is for recyclables.
It's a solid waste.
Yes.
Yeah, but we should still delay one container.
For recycle and 1%. Yeah. Okay. So we might have to define and change that.
John, which
Well, I'll
number?
just say
It's
that we're
page
up to 1
76.
Just to be, because recyclables is a different
It's a different,
area.
yeah, we just want to make
We
sure.
just want to stay with solid waste.
Yeah.
John,
Okay.
Go ahead, please.
on that same page 76, very last sentence,
Yes.
I should read fee $15, and then in parentheses.
Yes, thank you.
Page
Right
what?
at the bottom, not
Yeah,
10,
got it.
$10, 15.
Yeah, this.
Thank you.
That was a whole new placeholder. That can be deleted.
Okay. So we'll make note of those minor corrections.
And
Align with the, go ahead, please.
and then recommendation on page 75, I know it outlines that there'll be a grace period of 90 days. Can we also include that we'll receive a presentation or report? I think hearing what the nuisance officers are seeing in the city would help guide our recommendation of whether to proceed or not.
Do you want to report on that? Does
I,
the
as a
council?
vote, would.
We can put that in there. I mean, that's no big, and there should be a report presented by the council by March 30th.
I think the mayor outlined with that report that we received last week when we were doing budget, the mayor mentioned that that report can be available every month to us.
Well, that's the city. If you want a specific one,
Yeah.
performance here, could do it. I don't know if
That would work as well.
I don't know if I'd want it by the end of March. I'll probably go to April and May, so that we have some soft enforcement, maybe we actually started the formal enforcement.
Thank you.
Any other question on the draft legislation? The changes that were suggested are noted, so Mr. Ryan is going to make those changes.
That will be amended and then sent out to you all and then posted, the city clerk will post as amended.
Any other question on this?
I do need some clarity around the 45 gallons versus the 75 pounds.
You would probably go to the subject matter expert on that.
Have you had a chance to look at that?
That's all.
We do have the 75 pounds in there, and that goes back from years ago, just to try and prevent injuries with the guys. With the bags, most of the time, the guys are going to pull the bags out. Sometimes they grab the can. Some guys want to get done quicker, some guys take their time a little more safer. Again, if you're doing 7 bags, and each bag is, 15 pounds or 20 pounds, if they're all in one can, it's going to exceed 75 pounds.
Okay.
The object is you just take the bags out of the can, that's what we do now. It gets a little dicey when you put pounds in something or bags in something. Everybody, somebody may have a lot of just light garbage, it's light. Somebody may have a lot of heavy garbage. A lot of people pick up their yards from their dogs, it makes heavy garbage.
All right, any other question on this? All right, so we have some, we will receive the amended version with those recommended changes. So we need to call for a public hearing for November 12th, council meeting. So there's motion to call for a public hearing. All in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item is a reminder amending section 151-9, 138-2, 138-23, 138-43, 157-14, 183-10, 210-14 of the City of Schenectady Code related to the increase in set fees and adopting the building code related to the increased set fee adopted building code, administrative fees, schedule pursuant to section 137-17, 138-21, and 138-11-1 of the Schenectady City Code. Public hearing is scheduled for October 28th. This is just a reminder. The public hearing will be on October 28th, next Monday. The next item is review the 2025 proposed operating budget and capital budget for the City of Schenectady. We had a public hearing on October the 15th. Are there any questions related to that? We still have ongoing budget discussion. Will continue this evening. Any question on this?
No question, just want to be noted, we did have 4 speakers at the public hearing.
Okay. Any other comments? The next item is review to amend section 124-13 and 124-22 of the Schenectady City Code, increase administrative fee regarding false alarm call. We had a public hearing on October the 15th. Are there any questions related to this item?
But no speakers to the public hearing.
Yes, noted. Any question? Seeing none, I will call for a motion to move this item forward.
Wait 1 second. That was the discussion that we were still waiting to get feedback from the police department on what these specifically identify for the warnings.
I thought we received that.
I'm just, for clarification purposes, did we actually attribute a number to that? I know we reduced the amount of warnings they would get.
What's the question? I'm sorry.
Okay, if you don't mind, please come up. And if you don't mind, Mr. Williams, just repeat the question. I think that we had the documents here to reduce it from X amount to 4 to 2.
Yeah.
And then, I thought the discussion that Ms. Patrick and I had were attributing additional fees to increase the number of warnings. If Ms. Patrick still isn't wanting to do that also, I would want to proceed. But I think it was, we were going from 4 to 2, which was an additional cost savings. And then, I can only speak for myself, wanted to raise those attributing fees for like 1 violation, the 2nd violation, the 3rd violation, because as we identified, the physical and just the opportunity cost of sending a response team has an exorbitant like financial implication on the city. So although we'll never fully recoup that, I at least think it's more than $25.
That was the conversation.
So I would love your recommendation if you have one of how to proceed, but I think outside of just arbitrarily just applying a number to it. I know that's where I stood. I don't know if Ms.
There's a
Patrick.
schedule laid out in the attachment.
You got it.
Oh, so- No, there's a schedule for that laid out in the attachment. 25 for first persistent, 50 for the second, 75 for the third, 125 for each and every subsequent persistent false alarm.
And I think when we discussed it, we were looking at, yes, the revenue is going to go up because we're reducing it from 4 to 2. So by having 4 alarm that is free, now you're going to have 2. So you're increase your revenue by 2 here.
So you would say the cost of sending 2 patrol cars of fire rig is $25?
Well, I think this is specific to burglar alarms, though perhaps I'm speaking out of turn because, because I don't know that fire alarms are considered a false alarm. And I should probably stop there because I don't know.
That is just burglary.
But it's still, my point is like we have to send a response, and that response has to be worth more than $25. And then even getting to $125, I think if it requires 3 instances to get to that rate, I think that is too many attempts, even with the reduction to 2 warnings. I would appreciate your recommendation if you.
Yeah, the officer's time is certainly valuable. Oftentimes the fees would come after hours, if you will, so even on the midnight shift. So call volume is generally lower on those shifts. We get into the argument, I guess, is 2 false alarms is not a lot, especially in a 12-month period. So if you make it so drastic, I guess you get into this, the 3rd alarm, if it's $300, is that too much? That's something you guys can perhaps think about. But I love the idea of reducing it from 4 free to 2 free. And again, it is the real persistent ones that occupy a tremendous amount of our time. That is annoying. So, and the tier system perhaps would address that and kind of make it a little more equitable for those who, because we go there maybe once, for false alarm.
Yeah, thank you. So a lot of these might be like small businesses, restaurants, bars, things like that close up.
Yeah.
And something happens, so, and the police, come and check it out. So I think, after 2 calls and realizing they have to pay $25, I think they're going to probably reach out to their alarm company and have them come and tweak it and make sure that everything is, legal and aesthetic, as far as, triggering, how these alarms are being triggered and things, so. So I just wanted to add that.
Just council members' concerns. We dealt with it with 2 false alarms, but then there was a discussion, I recall that there was a discussion that they're supposed to come back regarding the fees. Because right now those fees that are highlighted is $25, $50, and $75. They're highlighted but not changed because we were waiting for that number.
That's right.
So, with that in mind, you could table this until 2 weeks, and the effective date would still be January 1st to get that full report. But in my recollection, that's how come I didn't put any new numbers into that part of the proposed ordinance, because we didn't get, there was a due out from the PD regarding additional numbers. That was my recollection.
essentially comparing other municipalities and what their rates are. Is that what we're asking for?
Just kind of figuring it out for the first, second, and third. Right now it's 25.50, and how far to increase those particular fees to more accurately reflect the cost of the calls.
Right.
So right now they're at 25.50 and 75. So that was the discussion, and that's that.
I thought Chief Whipple was doing some of that, and he was out of town for a few days. And I thought we were going to try and have it parallel for both police and fire, so that the fee structure would be the same. There are.
This was primarily focused on the parcel alarm with regards to the police, but we can look at that also too. I don't have an issue to table this for 2 weeks and come back, and then we can update the fees, because I think, yes, the fee needs to be addressed. So, go ahead, please.
And I just would like to know if, when we come back in 2 weeks, if we should have a number like for 2023, the number of false alarms that do you keep track of that?
Yeah, I'm certain that Chief Whipple had numbers for sure.
Yes.
Okay.
Those numbers were provided to us. We just need to go back in our documents, and I think if not, we'll ask for an updated report.
So to be clear, are you asking that we look to see what other municipality fees are? Is that for?
No, we're asking for an updated, I think the ask is for an updated report to see where we are in terms of collection, 2023.
Collection, and how many actual false alarms did we have in 2023?
Do we have a budget number for 23, don't we, I'm not sure that doesn't reflect the number of alarms.
All right, sure. We can hold this, we still have time on our side. Okay, this is going to implement on January.
We may have it right here. If you just want the number, but again, my recollection is some of the billing, both the police and fire department, is not absolute, so the number will really reflect what the real problem is. And I always say, with level of humor and also being serious, is that for burglar alarms, is the worst day is during a thunderstorm. You get high wind and stuff goes through, the alarms trip, and there's no way that we can actually follow up on each call that comes in.
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, please. Tom?
Ms. Brown.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I know we're in the
No,
corner.
don't do that.
We do have some numbers. For 2024, as of October 2nd, bills were sent out April 22nd, $35,100, a total of 70 invoices. There's another batch due out, that's about 54 invoices with an estimated total of $25,750 owed. There appears to be 438 false alarms reported by the police department this year.
And 23 as well you have?
This is 24. This is year.
And that information is up to October 2nd?
I have this email as of October 2nd.
I'll have to look at Chief Whipple's report. I'm confident he put numbers together and what the projected increase would be if we lowered the number of false alarms from 4 to 2. So it exists. I'm fairly certain of that.
Yes. So let's table this for 2 weeks, and we'll come back with the updated numbers, and we'll come back with a recommendation to either up the fees from 25, 50, and 75.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll have this back on the agenda in 2 weeks. The next item is review amend section 92-7 of the Schenectady City Code, issuing fees and charges to police department record. We had a public hearing on 15. Do we have any question regarding this section?
And no speakers.
Yeah. And this fee is going up to $40 from $20.
Mr. Chairman, if there's no amendments to this particular, you can vote it at a committee as you vote it next week.
Yes. Are there any questions regarding this section?
I didn't hear what he said.
Oh, you can vote it at a committee this week, and you can vote on it next week, so if there's no amendments.
That's the plan. Yeah.
It's just that the section's done by resolution.
No, this is by ordinance.
That's ordinance.
I thought the fee structure.
No, some things are done by resolution, this is by ordinance. It's how our code is.
Could they modify that? I was going forward to try to do everything by resolution to reduces the.
Perhaps
Make
another,
life easy for us in the future.
perhaps another
Another year.
Again, I brought it
That seems to
Yeah. Any other question regarding this? So I'll ask for motion to move this item forward.
I'll move it.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. The next item is also review to amend City Code 41-14C, increasing dog license fee. We had a public hearing on the 15th. Any question regarding this?
No speaker skills, waiting for me to say it.
No. Second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. The next item is amending section 248-2 of the city code, increasing parking violation fine. We had a public hearing on the 15th. Any question regarding this item? You should have a list of the backup documents with the old fee and the proposed new fees.
I guess I did have a quick question, which was, with the fire hydrant and the fire lane, why they didn't just keep them both the same fee, or, raise both of them to the 115. It just seems like it would make it easier, but it's
I have to
it's
call it.
literally like $5, but
What is the
I did
difference?
notice that as
Yeah.
I was reviewing it the first time.
There's some issues regarding the state code.
Oh, okay.
The state, I talked to the traffic folks on this, and there's vehicle and traffic code caps that we have to deal with, so that's a those were.
That's absolutely right. The vehicle traffic law does impose certain maximum fines for certain things. Otherwise, it's adopted from the council or the city ordinance as to what we can charge if it's not defined in the vehicle traffic law.
So those areas that were, especially like the fire lane and the handicap parking and the fire hydrant weren't changed, but the ones that purely within our purview
Gotcha.
were changed accordingly.
Thank you.
Any other question? And just to know, there were two other items that we discussed when we were looking at the fee adjustment. Was the modified exhaust and the modified speaker. Our corporation council looking into those two items as part of the noise nuisance Mr. Williams is pushing forward. So those two items will be addressed at that point in time, and what we as a council can do to address those concerns.
And then for the resolution, please correct me if I'm wrong, we're gonna write in painting the fire hydrants just to make areas more existent to people parking, and then ensuring that the remaining signs are replaced.
I don't know if you can, Mr. Chairman, I don't know if you can put that in the code itself, but I would, if that's something that the Bureau of Service and the fire department have to deal with for better markings, I think there was discussion on signage regarding enforcement.
I think when we discussed this, once Whipple had made a suggestion that the PD was going to look at signs and come back with a list of signs that needs to be replaced at certain areas. If I'm not
remember the
mistaken,
discussion as well.
I remember the discussion about that, yeah. So they are looking at that, and they come back and work with the signal superintendent. Yeah, I think there was some email back and forth about that.
Painting the curb too.
Right.
Painting the curb and addressing all the signs or replacing the ones that is now invisible, and to update all the signs for the city as we enforce this come January 1st. So there's a couple months to address those concerns. And yes, we can follow up with, if we need to kind of find out where we are in terms of those new signs or signs need to be replaced. Any other question? Seeing none, I will motion to move this item forward.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, finally.
See you later.
The next item is research analysis on employment for the city of Schenectady. Last week when we were discussing our budget, we talked about management raises. And the suggestion for me was to kind of look across the board in terms of management raises and in terms of the salary managers are receiving. And are we paying them, are we compensating them enough for what they're doing in terms of their position? The question across the table was we don't know. So I'm discussing with the mayor last week here at the table, it was to call for a study to see where we are in terms of our compensation for management. And the discussion was to move a resolution to kind of authorize this study. Am I missing anything on that? I think go ahead.
I think we did also say that we could still move forward with our budget discussion
Yes.
as is, and then return to this, you know, if we needed to make any adjustments or whatever, that, because we couldn't do the market study in time to continue our discussion.
That is correct, yeah. This will not affect our budget, 2025 budget. Is more of a study to see where we are in terms of compensation for management.
Yeah.
And that will come back to us, and then we as a council will discuss that. What do we do? So what I would like a resolution to Mayor to carry out this study.
I'll make a resolution. I think we talked about the Office of Human Resources.
Yes.
Asking the mayor for the Office of
HR
Human
department to
Resources.
do this, yes.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. The next item is our continued discussion in 2025 proposed budget. I will ask that we recess for respecting everyone's time. We recess the Finance Committee and we'll recall it at the end of this committee meeting and to continue our budget discussion. So motion to recess the Finance Committee.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
I'd like to call over city development and planning. We have 9 items on the agenda. The first item is a discussion of sidewalk replacement, Emmett Street and McClellan Street. Mr. Mutavera.
Thank you, Madam President. Yes, talking about sidewalk, McClellan Street and Emmett Street, individual that submit petition. Last year, we were able to identify and push through with Central Parkway. And now before you is the 2 other streets, street that we have. Mm-hmm. And I would like the council to recommend that we move forward to direct the assessment office and the law department to review these petitions and to come back to the council with any finding whatsoever, so that we can able to start work with these neighborhood leaders to identify and to put things in place so that we can get these 2 streets into the sidewalk program for 2025, 2026. Go ahead, please.
Do we have an updated one for Emmett Street? It was submitted in 2010.
Yeah, we do have a couple fiction there. There are a couple.
I see McCullough Street's all received in 2023, which is great.
Yeah. There's a lot of parts in terms of Emmett Street, but yes, review what we have, and then we can ask them for updated in terms of if they are changing the address, changing names, similar to what we did in Central Parkway. There are people, changing ownership, so we'll have to reach out to the new owner and kind of ask them for the permission to sign onto this sheet. So something similar we did, all of us did at Central Parkway.
And McCollum
It would be
same as McCollum.
it wouldn't be fair for us to go back and ask them to redo all this petition. They have done their job. It's a hard process.
Absolutely.
They went out there, they got petition. It's, no fault of all of us that it takes
It's just
so long.
14 years old.
Yeah, it took a while for us to address it.
Right.
And here we are in terms of moving forward and to address the sidewalk program.
And then we'll review McCollum Street as well, because
Yes.
it's over a year and a half
Both,
old as well.
Both Street will be, that is the purpose of us moving forward to address.
Good, thank you.
Go ahead, please.
So, as was pointed out, so this is 2010, that this was done. And so people may have moved. I know some people, actually, I know, but some people are no longer living, period. So what is going to be the process? You did kind of mention it before about, so what is going to be the process in terms of updating it? Are we going to use our tax rolls at this point to see who we need to go, how we're going to?
Yes,
Yes,
correct. Yeah, that's how it's done. So the assessor office will print out a roll in tax rate, and then it will review by the corporation council. That's how it's done in the past. And if the names doesn't match here, then we'll have to go back out and get the new owner to sign on. If they decide to go with the program.
Oh.
We'll have the community leader go back out and help to get petition, updated petition for those change in ownership.
Okay. So that's that's our starting place. Okay. Thank you.
It's still the same program, like $1.55 a linear foot or whatever? Okay.
$1.55.
What was that?
$55.
$55, yeah. You don't want to go there.
No, you don't want to
But
go down
it's the same, it's the same program.
Yes, same program, yes. I would put it for the human trade. Yeah. So we'll need, go ahead, please.
So, in asking that question, if it's the same program and the same cost, I think we have to look at, have the cost increased in order to do this? And how much more it's going to cost the city? And is the city going to be are we going to absorb the additional cost, if there is one, I imagine, with everything going up, that there is? Or are we going to be increasing what the homeowner has to pay? I think that those are things that have to be considered as we move forward with this.
Yeah, I think it was one of the suggestions I made last week in terms of the ARPA money that we're hoping that will come back to us. We can able to, as a council with the mayor, put some money in that program back at that point in time to see if we can help these areas to address the sidewalk. And yes, we can address the cost at that point in time as we move forward. Do we amend it and change it from $55 upward? Good suggestion. We can address that as we move forward. Go ahead, please.
I would just say it's important, as we've already started kind of allocating projects to this ARPA dollars that we haven't even received yet. I just want to make sure we're intentional with how we're prioritizing the conversations we're still going to have in hopefully an hour.
I'm sure we will address that. And I think that there are some capital money in the capital budget for sidewalk programs still, some money there.
Well, there was some money that was bonded for this type of undertaking specifically. You were not able to find the petition for Raymond Street?
No, I can't. I've looked all the email, and if anybody's listening, if anybody who was involved in Raymond Street, if you do have a petition, please send it a copy to us. We search the clerk's office, the archive, all the folders, all the emails. I have been involved in the petition from the beginning, the sidewalk program, and I don't have a copy, unfortunately. So I don't know.
That was brought in.
Yeah. So whoever is out there listening, and if you have copies, please reach out to any council member, myself, the mayor, and if you can hand deliver a copy, we would be glad to receive that and add that Raymond Street into this program.
So Mayor, you said it was already brought in? Do you know who brought it in at the time of this? No.
Yeah, we asked that question, yeah, because I was going to go back out directly to that person, yeah.
So maybe in being all fairness, we should, again, go out ourselves. People on
Well,
Raymond
let's
Street,
find out
saying-
who was involved.
Right.
And maybe I'm sure they will have copies. And they can provide a copy to us, and we can add it to this program. Yeah. So do we need to move a resolution, or we just
No, I have, it's under review at this
under
point.
review? Yeah. So
Right,
you will
it's
just
been
take
accepted.
it. So you will just take it from there and review these rates and come back to us with your report. Okay. Perfect. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. The next item is ceremonial resolution recognizes musicians of Malik.
Yes,
Ms. Patrick.
thank you. They will be celebrating their 25th anniversary. They are celebrating their 25th anniversary. Their season just started. So this would be a ceremonial resolution that will be given to them next week.
I'll move this.
Oh, I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
The next item is reminder establishing a temporary moratorium on the submission and processing of building permits, certificates of occupancy, certificates of use, and land use approvals of cannabis established as the City Council considers changes to Chapter 264. Public hearing will be held on, but that date can't be correct. It says 10/28.
Madam President, if I can just speak a moment on that real quick.
Go right ahead.
In your packets this week is the ordinance, that's the moratorium ordinance. It's modeled after the vape shop ordinance that you passed earlier this year. You'll notice that there's additional definitions put in there for cannabis establishment, micro-business, on-site consumptions. So it's prospectively looking ahead as to the various licenses that may come our way. So when we're doing the review of the zoning code, we'll be looking at those definitions and though that at some point they'll be incorporated into our zoning code. It's not already done. Some of those are already in the code from, as you remember, from back in the vape, but some of those are not, like on-site consumption and micro-business, for example. And so if there's anything, as we begin this process, I've had discussions with the planners in development about the way ahead here. If you have any areas that you would like to see these, not see these, by way of review real quick, the vape shops are in the industrial zones M1, M2, and the commercial zones C4 and C5, which is downtown in the upper State Street commercial corridor. If you want, you could always look into expand some of these establishments in the C3 waterfront district, which is the harbor area. That area, the waterfront development district, I'm just throwing that out there. I'm not saying anything one way or the other. But what areas you would want that, like as I said, C4 and C5, vape shops, and M1 and M2 vape shops, if you want to have these in those areas, or you want to have them in other areas, depending on the type of establishment, based on the definitions, please send me, as a group, send each other an email to me, and so we can take your concerns as we start drafting this, and then at some point, probably November, December, get some sort of working draft ordinance for you to take a look at and start working on that. This ordinance will take effect on November. Your next meeting is the 12th, so it would be the next day, which would be November 13th, and would go to February 11th, which is approximately 90 days. So it's a day certain, so everybody knows. Nobody's counting days on calendars or anything like that. It says when it's going to expire.
That's good.
So I just wanted to throw that out there for you on that point. And if I can go on to the next one, if I can.
What's the next one meeting?
The comment period for that location on Broadway.
So no.
Okay.
Just, I want to just say a couple things about this one. We kind of have this discussion. I just want to make sure there's clarity. For individuals who already have their license by the state of New York.
Right.
will they be impacted by this? I know that there's some people who don't have their license but have submitted to us for a location. And what would the difference be?
What the difference is, what we can control is, pursuant to the ordinance, is that if they have filed paperwork for a certificate of use or site plan, etc., by our start date of November 12th, then we have to proceed with that.
Okay.
We have to proceed with that because they got their requests in before the moratorium date.
Okay.
So they may still be working with the Office of Cannabis Management, but if they have submitted that request for site plan, certificate of use, any of those listed items under the moratorium, then we have to process that all the way through.
Oh, okay. And the other thing, as we had this discussion before, you said that you're going to be looking to OCM, the Office of Cannabis Management, to make sure that what we're doing here is not outside of what we are allowed to do based on what their guidelines are.
That's correct. And we got to, there's, as you know, there's certain distances that they have put into the regulations. Those are the regulations, and that's what we got to do. The town of Babylon, as you know, that was our vape shop model. They had conversations with the Office of Cannabis Management, and they set a distance of 750 feet from a residential district that the Office of Cannabis Management was okay with. So just putting that out for an example. So as we go through this and as we really get into the details of what we need to do, we'll give you the updates, and then if necessary reach out to Office of Cannabis Management for guidance on those issues. But that was something that another municipality did in working up their code.
Are there any other questions regarding this item? Okay, so we'll have that public hearing on the 28th. The next item is discussion of OCM 30-day notice for 1708 Broadway.
Okay.
Right.
There we go. As part of the application process under Rule 119.3, as part of the application process that goes before the Office of Cannabis Management and the Bureau of Cannabis Control, the municipality is afforded an opportunity to weigh in on a particular location. We have a 30-day. This was filed last week. This is a location out on Broadway. I believe it's the old Key Bank building on the top of Broadway. So that, just to give you an idea. The city has 30 days. You take a look at it. If you have any questions, concerns, comments, etc., the law department can funnel those questions to the Office of Cannabis Management for their review, and if we have any concerns regarding that location, then as part of the review process at their level, they have to address our concerns. So right now, there'll be Friday the 15th of November is the 30-day deadline. So I would, if you have any issues, concerns, we can check back here in a couple of weeks if you want to discuss this in further detail. If you've thought about whatever your concerns are, and then we'll make sure we'll get those to the Cannabis Management Agency before the 15th.
So in terms of the municipality replying, that does not take into consideration, we don't have to do anything by asking the public, and we don't have to get any public input for this?
This is the way they view this is as a 30-day comment period from the community board or from the government.
Okay.
So this is purely as the policymakers for the city giving that process. So it's a very short window. So whatever concerns you have as a group, yes.
I don't recall that happening with the opening of the one on State Street.
Well, that was.
So I'm just, is this new?
No, that was actually well on its way, because, but I think as we go through this process, we're moving forward, that the clerk gets it, it's distributed, it's 30-day period, so I think as the rollout of this process has gone through, I think that I think going forward will be a better way of having. Okay, but that was moving along, and I think we got something maybe in July at that point, and but that was already processed. So I think from both a local level as well as the state level, we're getting in sync.
Right, you're right, Mr. Turtle, it didn't go through this process, and although I just want to be clear that all of those things were received in the law department in terms of.
Yeah, and we rolled that
just
out.
didn't get to that.
We did roll that out to you when we got the July one.
I beg your pardon?
We rolled that out the July one, but it was already, as you know, that was well on its way. Because the idea is that these notifications are to be on the front end, like this one that we're dealing with right now, whereas the one on, for example, the one on Union Street was on the, was well along before we got it in July.
So in terms of that one in 501 State Street, because DASNY was involved, the Dormitory Authority was involved with that, is that why they had the opportunity to just wait so long?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
I won't speculate. I don't know.
But we right-sided it, and going forward, we'll follow the procedure. Okay.
We're good.
All right. Any other questions on this item?
No?
Okay. Thank you. The final 5 items are all for executive session for property sale. So I would ask for a motion to recess city development and planning.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We're recessed. Thank you.
So I'd like to call to order the Claims Committee. We have 2 items on the agenda tonight. Both items need to be discussed in executive session. So may I have a motion to enter executive session?
So moved.
Second? All those in favor? Aye. So we are now in executive session. The public will have to leave.
Mr. Chairman, I think perhaps a good point of order. You want to hold off on that until after you have your budget hearings, or I'll let you, or you want to do the claims now?
No.
No?
No, we'll do
Yes.
these and then we'll go into the budget.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Yeah. I think, well, they have to shut it down over there, so everybody's going